I'll use the regular jingle. Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, serving the Treasure Coast for over 30 years, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airways.
This is the mayor of the airways. Great to have you here today, and we have a star coming in from Broadway. They say the neon lights are bright on Dan DeLuca. And how you doing, Dan? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, they do say that. The neon lights are bright. They are bright. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're originally from Pennsylvania?
Yes, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but moved to the big city, New York, when I was 18, and I've been residing here ever since. And fortunately get to take some vacation working time and come down to you guys in Florida.
Yeah, how do you like that, man? And you get to come down here and do a show at the famous Riverside Theatre and get to bask in the sun, you know?
It's fantastic. I also had the pleasure of working down in Florida, too close to a neighbor of you in Maltz Jupiter. I did Guys and Dolls at the Maltz Jupiter Theater. I was Sky Masterson last winter, so I keep escaping the freezing temperatures of New York and get to join you guys down there.
You got favor from the man upstairs. Also, this show that you're doing, The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, is really kind of cool for you. Not only are you coming down, but your girl's coming down, and the two of you are in this. How did you ever manage that?
That is, it's such a blessing, because in this world we're constantly, as you hear about actors, constantly, one job ends, you have to look for the next job. So it's not a typical 9 to 5. We're always getting new roles, we're always getting new jobs. Even when you have a long running show on Broadway, the Phantom of the Opera, I had a buddy in that. He was in it for 15 years. He never thought it would close, and then it closed.
Boom.
You never know. So you're constantly on the road, you're constantly traveling. But this time, me and my amazing girlfriend, her name's Mary Kate Moore, she and I both booked this job together, and we're so happy because we get to spend Christmas together and work together. So we feel very lucky.
I probably saw you on stage, and as I told you, I always like to go up there for Christmas to the Radio City Music Hall, and then go see a few plays. The Goodbye Girl, I remember that with Neil Simons. I've seen that on Broadway. How about Rent? You were in Rent. You worked in The Nutty Professor with. Now this is Jerry Lewis and Marvin Hamlish. Now were you actually with Marvin Hamlish?
No, I was not. So Marvin passed away 10 years before we had opened this production. He died while he was creating the show, it was put on a bit of a pause for 10 years, and so they remounted it 10 years later after the anniversary of his death. And it's a lovely show. It's a lovely show. Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, anyway, I got to, when I was 19 years of age and I was trying to get my songs published in New York City, I'd go down there. I ran into Marvin Hamlish, of course, and I ran into him in a deli. And then he would analyze some of my songs, and we would right back and forth for a number of years. But my father would always, I met him in a New York deli, so my father would always say, "How's Marvin Omelet?"
That's very clever. That's very clever. That's amazing. Yeah, I never got to meet him, unfortunately, but his scores keep coming back into my life. He wrote the score of Goodbye Girl as well. Neil
Chorus
Simon's
line.
Goodbye Girl. Yeah, you wrote chorus line. Yeah, I'm not quite the dancer for the chorus line, but I love chorus line.
What was that show? The one. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Now, what's really wild and crazy is that Dan DeLuca, you play multiple roles. So give us an overview of this show coming to Riverside Theatre that you're going to be starring in with your girl.
Yeah, so it's phenomenal show. It's if you haven't heard of it, it's I'm glad you're hearing of it now because it should be done more often. It won numerous Tony Awards on Broadway, but it's based on a movie. It's based on a book. The movie's called Kind Hearts and Coronets, and the book is called Israel Rank. That's the name of the book, and it's about this young man who has been he comes from a big dynasty in England, a big dynasty called the Dicewith family, and they're the heirs of this ginormous fortune. And he's been excavated because his mother had him out of she was with a humble man, not a man of royalty or a man of great power. So he's been cast aside, and he realizes that he's only about 8 or 9 people away from being the heir of the dynasty of the Dicewiths. And so he decides to kill the ones who are standing in his way. Mind you, this is a musical comedy, so as crazy as it sounds. So I have the great fortune of playing everyone that the young man has to kill in order to become the heir of the dice with fortune. So the it's very tongue in cheek. It's a farce. It's honestly nonstop laughter. So every time you see me, I will be a different character who the hero, Monty Navarro is his name, is trying to get rid of so that he can become the heir to the Dice with family. So every time you see, I'm hopefully will be unrecognizable, but I get to play a range of characters from 20-year-olds to 90-year-olds to men to women. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a really fantastic time.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm, and there's nothing that sells like enthusiasm. I can't wait to see this, The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Of course, it's coming January 9th through February 1st. There are still some tickets available at Riverside Theatre. Go to riversidetheatre.com. When Monty Navarro finds out that he's eighth in line for an aristocratic title and the wealth and prestige brings, this lowly born manipulator figures out a way to outlive his predecessors and become the ninth Earl of Highhurst. And this is going to be great. I mean, so how many roles do you play, Dan DeLuca?
Play nine, I believe it's nine characters.
My
I played
word!
nine different characters. Yeah, it's gonna be I'm quite but be stretching myself. I have the great fortune of playing a lot of fantastic characters. I got to do the regional premiere of Tootsie, the Dustin Hoffman show where or the movie where he dresses up as a woman to get a part. I've done that before. The Nutty Professor, going back and forth, the Jerry Lewis movie between the Professor Kelp, the nutty professor, to the Dean Martin suave guy. So, but this is nine different characters. The most I've done, I believe, is five in one show. So we're stretching it to nine. So I'm so excited. It's going to be very taxing. I'll be very sweaty, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now you're young, so it will be a lot of fun. I don't think an old guy like me could do it, but I am amazed for you to be able to do all these roles in one show. And
It,
it's just you must be some sort of a genius.
I don't. Well, we'll see about that. We'll let the audiences decide that. But Jefferson Mays, who also originated this role on Broadway, he was I believe, well into his 50s whenever he did it. So I
Really?
am young compared to Jefferson. But
Yeah.
Jefferson was. I had the pleasure of seeing that on Broadway, and he's absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, it doesn't get done that often. But I'm hoping that this will restart a new wave of it because it's so fun. It's so much fun in the theater. Just true old fun musical comedy, just of nonstop, just nonstop going.
Well, I always feel privileged to interview someone such as yourself who's been on Broadway and done all these shows, and you've also done TV and a whole bunch of stuff, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anything you want to mention that will be impress the audience, the TV or film or whatever?
They'll be I mean, I've done some CBS shows that unfortunately didn't have as long as life as I wanted them to, but
That's
that's
okay.
okay. That's just the way that it goes. I'm just grateful to be a working actor. That's for sure. It's a crazy time, and what I'm so excited about specifically doing this show about is the comedy of it because it can feel dark in this world sometimes. It can feel very
Yeah.
uh lonely or disheartening, but what I love about doing specifically live theater is that it feels like a wonderful space of people coming together in person and getting to laugh together and hum along some really joyous songs. So to me, as much as I love doing on camera work, I love being in the theater face to face with people, riding the waves of laughter or waves of silence if if I'm not doing my job right, or
Well,
whatever that
yeah,
is.
the dynamics of a live audience, it's alive and it breathes. And the lady in the wheelchair wearing the red jacket over on the left, well, it'll never be seated there again, and neither will anybody else in those seats. So it's like this. It's almost
Exactly.
like a Picasso. You paint this whole beautiful thing, and then at the end of the night, it gets thrown out. It's gone forever. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
it's very sacred art when you think about it, and the
It
connection.
is.
Yeah. Now, what I want to know is
Yeah.
how did Dan DeLuca, from Pennsylvania, get bitten by the acting bug? Where did that come from?
It came specifically from a night at the theater seeing Kathy Rigby as Peter Pan when I was in kindergarten. Kathy
Oh,
Rigby as Peter Pan cast a magical spell over me. And just the idea that um, the idea of playing pretend, and I'm so grateful to come from such an amazing family. My parents, Kathy and Dave DeLuca, have been so supportive of me and my two sisters. I'm the middle child in between two sisters. My older sister's a doctor. My younger sister is a hairstylist, and I'm just so grateful. They were super supportive of me, and they were like, "Well, I guess he's gonna do this, and I guess he's good enough to do this." And I moved to New York when I was 18, and I've been fortunately been able to be working as an actor ever since.
well, there's a lot of people that want to do what you do,
Yes,
but when somebody has the
yes.
want to, and then they have, I mean, I've come to just highly respect when you think flippantly, or at least I did. Oh, I could do that, and try acting sometime. Because like you play comedy, and as I know, when I was in college, we had the Bowery Brothers. Well, the dumbest guy in the show, the guy who played the dumbest guy, was the smartest guy because you can't play dumb with credibility unless you're highly gifted, right?
I love that, Rhett. Thank you so much for saying that. That I do find I mean, speaking not only of myself, but
Yeah.
I do agree with that. You have to understand the nuance of the psychology of the human mind to be able to go back and forth. But yeah, it's fun. There's no other way to learn than by doing it. So it's such a joy to do it 8 times a week to continue to figure out what beats work, what beats don't work. I'm not sure if you have in your notes, but our director, Hunter Foster, was a leading man on Broadway for years and years and years, and he, was in the producers on Broadway. He was Leo Bloom, in the producers on Broadway, and he was that show specifically was one of the reasons why I got into theater in the first place.
Wow.
And he's a master. He's an absolute master. I grew up watching him. Like when I was little back in Pittsburgh, I used to. This was before YouTube. I would order bootleg Broadway DVDs on a website and have them sent to my house. And I would just watch these different performances of these amazing character actors do their work. And I was like, how do you do that? And so it's just the fun thing is I get to continue to figure out how to do that. And then also work with somebody like Hunter, who's become a dear friend of mine over the years. And I'm so grateful that he trusts me with the material to help lead this company. And uh, yeah, to just set this all up to hopefully be a big success.
Do you ever find when you get direction from the director, can it kind of like quell your excitement or something? Like you've got this idea and you want to do this with this character, but then he or she says, "No, no, I want you to go this way." The conflict. How does that all work out?
Absolutely. That's another thing by you just learn by doing, and you have to ultimately. My job is the actor. I am not the director, so I do have to listen to the notes. But why I love working with Hunter is because we have a very similar sensibility. So I don't have that with Hunter very often, but of course that happens from time to time. One of my favorite things about being in this business too is you listen to people like Martin Short, who he talks about working with directors who he's hated or things like that, who he didn't understand the comic sensibility. Because at the end of the day, it is us up there on that stage, and if something is not working, you have to trust the director, but you also have to trust your instincts to be like,
Yes.
okay, somebody forgot a line, or there's a lot of dead space, and we have to keep this moving. But yeah, that does happen sometimes. But with Hunter, that has yet to be a problem. And even his wife, who's a huge Broadway veteran as well, and a great Disney voiceover actress. Her name is Jen Cody, and we work together a lot. And she was like, "Man, the idea of you and Hunter together in a room is such bad news because we do a lot of bits, we do a lot of jokes, a lot of gags, so which is just so much fun, and ultimately is for the good of the piece. So I'm very grateful to work with people who have the same sensibility and who are smart, like you said, Rhett. The idea that you do have to. It's comedy is math. Comedy is math, and there is an equation to it, and it's invisible though. It's in some invisible math. So, but it's really fun to work out.
Well, I believe even comedians are really great artists because they take
Yeah.
something that's ordinary and then they frame it and you go, "Oh yeah, I never thought about that," right? And
Right, exactly. Yeah, sometimes things the most obvious things are painting it in a different way. It's poetic. It's truthful. It's because comedy, it also has to come from truth. If you're just doing like a funny voice or you're doing a funny walk for the heck of it, it has to be rooted in something. So, with each of these nine characters, I've had to do so much prep work because if I have to make the one you see 30 seconds before you see the other one, I want them to be different enough, but I also don't want them to be different just to be different. I want them to be justified in their in the rooted in the truth of why I'm doing the crazy thing that I'm doing. So
well, which maybe what are the favorite characters you're going to be doing? I guess are there any favorites or
there's quite a few. There's quite a few. Um, that stick out. There's an old reverend who's a bit of a drunkard, who unfortunately falls to his death by
oh,
falling off of the side of the cathedral, and
oh,
he's probably about 80 or 90 years old, and he's very old. And in Yeah, and there's a lovely woman named Lady Hyacinth, and I get to play her, and she is looking for a cause to help the poor people, but it's mainly just for her own notoriety. So she's traveling to different lands to help people in need, but it's all for selfish reasons. And it's very funny, the reasons why she justifies her behavior to help the poor people. And she says she's proud to stand among the dull-witted of Greater London and things like that. It's just they're all awful people. So it's that will be the fun part to play too. It's just you won't be sad to see them go whenever they do die. You're
well,
like,
yeah. So, well, great working with great working with Mr. Hunter though, because here you've
yeah,
got a guy who's been in show business and been on the stage. It must be much easier to take direction from someone who is seasoned.
exactly. Yes, 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 yes. Because you never know who you're going to walk into the room with. But it's with anything. I'm sure your listeners have a manager or a boss who they've worked with before who they don't always like the direction from, but it's a part of the job. But like I said, Hunter Foster he's a Broadway legend in his own right. You could look up his resume in acting and in directing. Just he is a force. So I'm so grateful to get his stamp of approval.
Now, the characters are, do we as the audience see you through it and understand that you're playing that part, or is that hidden, or is that part of the comedy,
I think a huge part of the comedy is the fact that you hopefully will know it's me. It's the idea of a big Saturday Night Live sketch or a Carol Burnett show where you see the same person playing multiple different characters at the same time. So the audience is very much in on the joke that I disappear for 3 minutes to change my costume and come out as somebody else. So.
Three famous actors that you admire exceedingly, just a short version, and why?
Oh my gosh, a wonderful question. A wonderful question. Uh, what comes to mind automatically is Robin Williams for sure. Is because as we were mentioning earlier, his dedication to um, he's an incredible comedian, but also so dedicated to the truth, and that's why I believe he was able to play such incredible dramatic roles as well as making us all fall off our chairs with laughter. So
Yeah.
Robin for sure, and just the battle he was struggling with internally and mentally is um, should be honored as well, and just what the gift that he gave us and continues to give us.
Yeah.
Um, And another a huge person to me was this character actor on Broadway named Gary Beach, who was also in The Producers. He won the Tony Award for being The Producers, and he's not famous, but he was just a master of the stage and of making people laugh. And he was I got to know him a few years before he unfortunately passed away, but I think of him every day, and I'm grateful to have been his friend and to see his work. And then I'm trying to think of somebody else. A lot of them are all comedic legends and truthful legends. I do love Jim Carrey too. It's the holidays and just rewatching The Grinch. His version of The Grinch will always be
Amazing.
one of my favorite things in the whole world. So Jim
You're a
Carrey as
mean
well.
man, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah,
Yes, you're a
exactly.
mean one. Okay, so A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, January 9th to February 1st at the Riverside Theatre in Vero Beach, Florida. And Dan DeLuca, who's been on Broadway and multiple shows, and he's flying in with his girlfriend, who's going to play the female role, which is extraordinary.
Yes.
I've never seen two people. That'll be really, knowing that ahead is kind of really cool to watch how you two interact. That'll be really cool.
Yes. Then the fun thing is we don't play opposite lovers either. She's in love with the lead guy Monty Navarro, and I am just on this. So I'll get to watch her kiss another man. That will not be a favorite part of
No,
mine, but hey, whatever.
I don't
It's all
know.
part of the job. It's all part of the job.
A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. I want to thank you so much, Dan DeLuca, for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you're packing today. You're heading down this way for rehearsal. God
Yes,
bless you,
sir.
and thank you so much. Look forward to, and I'll say break a leg.
Thank you, sir. I really
Uh,
appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dan DeLuca, very much. Okay, have a great day.